Wednesday night, Metal Summoners. We are here. We are back, and we are so happy to be back with you. A couple weeks out from Rockin' Pod, a couple weeks out from Nashville, and we are super duper stoked to be back with you. As always, you are here. This is the Island of Misfit Toys, and we love you so dearly. We've got Angel Alamone, we've got Bobby Dreyer. Psycho Steve is taking the evening off for a little bit of R&R, but we will have him back with us, of course. And I'm Jay, and we thank you guys so much for being in with us and spending your evening with us. You know, that's how we roll, that's how we rock, and that's exactly how we like to do it. The first half of the week is out of the way, and the weekend, as far as I'm concerned, starts right this second. Angel, Bobby, how you doing, guys?
Good. I'm doing good. How's Angel doing?
Angel, how you feeling, buddy?
A little better.
A little better? Yeah, it was a little bit of a rocky episode last week, because you were pretty much hit full force at that time. Yeah, man. But no worries. Absolutely. Well, we are back. We are back to get everything going and rocked out with us. So let's bring in our guest. We have got Jim Mayberry. We've got Whiskey Grin in the house today. Jim, how are you, brother?
How are you?
We're doing good, man. We're doing very, very well, man. Sure. We'll start things off really solid and just we'll kind of jump right in with everything. So coming now back into 2021 and shows kind of getting back and rolling again, things kind of getting back off the ground after 2020 kind of had a lot of things erased. How's everything going with you? How's everything going with Whiskey Grin? And what can you talk about as far as getting some shows back under your belt?
Well, during 2020, you know, with the COVID crisis that we've been in, we've actually stayed working. You know, Whiskey Grin does a lot of different types of shows. We do, you know, the original shows. We do shows that are just full cover shows as well. So we just jumped from state to state, what was open and what was, you know, what we were allowed to get away with. We wanted to stay working. We had a lot of stuff that was in the works, and we just kind of rolled with the changes where it was, you know, if we were able to do the show and whether there were mask mandates or whatever it took to do it, whether it was a limited audience because of, you know, the amount of audience that was allowed to be in the place that we were playing at one time. And we just made adjustments and jumped from state to state wherever it was favorable.
Absolutely, for sure. When it came to one of the questions that we've been asking a lot of the guests that we found to be very, very interesting and also very insightful when it came to dealing with the COVID situation, because it was such a new thing for the music industry to be dealing with. How did you feel your communication as a band, went? So you guys stayed relatively active, like you said, being able to travel around to where you were able to continue to perform. But when it came to like not being able to play necessarily as many shows as you normally would have been, how did you feel the communication as a band worked? You know, did you guys feel that it strengthened you guys where you were able to talk about, hey, this is where we'd like to go, or this is what we'd like to do, or hey, let's concentrate on writing? So talk a little bit about how you guys feel the communication was during 2020.
Well, I think, you know, first of all, we've always had really good communication with each other. You know, there's a chemistry within our group that, you know, we're like brothers. So, and that, I think because of all the COVID stuff that went down, we kind of like, we dug pretty deep. Yeah, we're writing a new album. And we have enough material for at least 2 albums right now. So, you know, that's on the burner. As well as like whenever, you know, like I said, certain situations arise where we needed to, we had to be in constant communication with each other, you know, with either social media, texting, phone, anything that we can use so we can talk to each other, because we live kind of a distance away from each other. So, but that just, I think it really kind of strengthened us in a lot of ways, because we're the kind of band that if we haven't heard from each other in a week or so, we kind of keep in contact just to check in on each other to make sure we're okay. And I know some bands probably don't work that way, but that's not Whiskey Grin. We're, we love each other in this band, so we check up on each other, make sure everybody's healthy. And because of COVID, we did have one of the members, Dream, the drummer. He wound up getting COVID, and it was some sketchy time, but our thoughts and our prayers were there for him, and we stayed in constant communication with him. And no matter how bad he felt, we were just the biggest pain in the asses for him, and he pulled through, and we just keep working. We just keep going.
Nice, man. Nice. We're kind of that way too with ourselves. When a member of the Brotherhood is hurting, or a couple of guys are feeling down, we always tend to communicate with each other to make sure that everybody's doing all right. And we're, top notch, and just making sure that everybody's looking out for each other for sure. So we definitely understand exactly what you mean there, Jim, for sure. Bobby Dreyer, let's bring you in, my good dude.
So Jim, I'm going to flip back to some of your older days. Let's go back to Florence, New Jersey. 1986.
I think I remember some of the 80s.
So you had an album out back then, and you were in a different band.
That would be Sanctum.
Sanctum, yeah. And, you had Believers, and you were on a label. And funny thing is, the album's still in print in Europe.
Hello.
Which is interesting, But so how did you guys come from you guys were a 6-piece band then, now to a 3-piece? So how did all that come about?
Well, I couldn't hear some of what you said, but if you were talking about Sanctum was a 5-piece band, where me and Ray Bubble played dual lead guitar parts in that band, and that was a progressive hard rock heavy metal band, kind of like if Queensryche and Iron Maiden had a love child, that was probably Sanctum.
Yeah, that's what they compared you guys to. It was early, The Warning, right about that period before the whole Mind Crime thing, Lady Wore Black, and,
Yeah, that's probably why we were doing the shows we were doing with the people that we were doing, some of the national and international bands that we played with back then, like Paul Di'Anno from Iron Maiden, playing with the boys in Pantera, Savatage, and I'm just thinking John Sykes's Blue Murder. We were along the lines. It was heavy, and we were doing pretty good. And I guess you could say the music changed, like it did for a lot of us that were playing heavy metal at the time, and that sucked. But this now that the new band Whiskey Grin that I formed in the studio. I was in the studio actually with John, recording about 3 albums worth of material from a band that I used to be in when I was a teenager, and we recorded all those songs. And I said, I've had about enough of this shit. I want to go back out and play. And I asked John to join up with me again, and I didn't feel the need that we should have like a dual lead guitar band again. I wanted to have a more tighter unit, with just as a 3-piece, and with the right chemicals, having the right drummer, having the right bass player, singer, and, just me as a soloist guitar player in it. And I wanted to take more of a blues rock approach towards it. And, got away from the progressive end of things, and not that we don't dive into that every now and then with our music, but it's more bluesier. It's more kickback rock and roll, rock band stuff.
Very cool.
Nah, for sure. Absolutely, definitely. Angel, let's bring you in, my good dude. Thank you for being able to hold true, and we're glad that you're feeling a little bit better, buddy. So let's bring you in.
Yes, I want to say thank you to everybody. COVID sucks, but we're all dealing with it, and the show goes on. So fuck you, COVID. There we go. Now I feel a little better. Last week was fuck you, Spirit Airlines. This week is fuck you, COVID. Fuck.
Just get it out of your system, bro.
Oh, but I do have a handful of candy. Candy per She wants to know. Get it per show. Handful of candy. So her question is, who were your early musical influences?
Is as far as guitar playing?
Yeah.
I think I take a little piece of just about everybody I hear that I like. My early days, Jimmy Page, Ted Nugent, that kind of stuff. Pat Travers, who we wound up playing a show with Pat Travers, and that was really cool. But there's, back in the 70s, early 80s, there were so many great guitar players. You couldn't swing a dead cat without hitting a really great player and learn something from them, whether it be Eddie Van Halen or Steve Vai or whoever it may be, that you were going to take something from them. And some of the ones that weren't as well known, say like Adrian Vandenberg or something, and I was always a big Michael Schenker fan. So, guitar player wise, those are some of the heavier influences, I'd say.
Well, my question is, you say you're working on a double album. Is there any idea yet on how you will plan to release a double album, like release one album and down the line release the second album, or do both of them at the same time?
What I meant by that was we have enough material for two albums.
Sorry.
And two more albums, and we're probably working on enough material right now for a third. So we're continuously writing. John and I get together and we have writing sessions. We do a lot of stuff online with each other, as well as we see each other in person. And even during a live show, when we're doing a sound check or something like that, we'll spin off something off each other and make it grow organically like that, I guess, is the best way we write.
Awesome. Take it
Right on, for sure, man. Definitely.
Steve, sorry. Jay.
I can be a Steve. I mean,
you need the beard.
Yeah, it's up here. So we love you, Steve.
That could be taken a couple of ways.
Absolutely, for sure, and let it. And I'm sure, hopefully, a couple of our female watchers will take it that way. Sorry, Sam. So anyway, getting things kind of back on track a little bit. When you were putting Whiskey Grin together as like a 3-piece, coming off of your Sanctum and your other bands being like 5 pieces and stuff like that, was it designed mostly around like wanting to keep the simplicity of the sound for having like a 3-piece? Because you get that full-bodied, aggression when you've got more players out there. But what would you say was some of the major designs for Whiskey Grin, being like a 3-piece? Because the one thing about you guys is you play between yourself, John, and Jim. You have a sound that would not come across to anybody who's not watching as a 3-piece. You're a very full sounding band.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit just about like your initial design of only a 3-piece, but what it was about the way you write and the way you perform that really gives it that power.
Well, I guess we get that a lot where, people that have seen us live say that, they're kind of like can't understand how do we sound like a 5-piece band and we're a 3-piece band. And we keep our music and our instrumentation very simple. We just play very open. A lot of, there's a lot of room to breathe in the music, where, yes, it is structured, but it's not as compartmentalized as some bands have it, where you're telling a rhythm guitar player, you have to play this, and and of course, yeah, you have to hit your marks. but where there's three pieces, and the way it helps is that, you know, one, we have our own touring sound engineer, and he knows how to mix us well. His name is Doc Farrell, John Doc Farrell, and he's got quite a history. He was under Andy Johns. He mentored under Andy Johns, who that name might sound a little familiar. He's done everybody since the first two Led Zeppelin albums to Cinderella, and he's just worked with everybody. That is, you know, some pretty prominent names as well. You know, so having Doc there really helps. And you know, just the communication between us. We know where other bands have, you know, can't get away with what we get away with instrumentally. So that helps. And I guess when it comes down to it, if you listen to other three-piece bands, whether it be Rush or King's X or ZZ Top or whatever, you know, you think of those other three bands. Well, it was the character of their music and strong songwriting that, you know, really propelled them, and where you didn't even notice that, it was just like, holy shit, these are three guys, you know what I mean? So we focus in on the strong songwriting really, really deeply, and you know, and placing certain chords in certain ways that, you know, that open it up, lending it, you know, for a bigger sound.
Absolutely, for sure. And so when it comes to guitar playing, you know, being that you are the guitar player of the band in a band, in a, you know, a hard rock band, a heavy metal band where two guitar players are definitely common, what is it about the way that you look at yourself, you know, write your own parts as well as performing live, that you have to keep in mind when you have, you know, rhythm parts as well as leads that you have to keep, you know, to kind of keep your eye on and keep your fingers on to make sure that things don't kind of carry on out of whack? Would you say that stems kind of back to what you were saying just about that strong songwriting?
Yeah, you know, I think that was the difference. Writing good songs is not easy to do, for one. Hopefully people think that the songs that we're writing are good, but I think that, you know, any band that you see, if, you know, we've been to enough shows where you see a band, like I mentioned Cinderella earlier, like, you know, back in the 80s, growing up where we grew up, I mean, you know, Cinderella was in the clubs that we were all playing, and
Galaxy,
so,
Empire.
Oh yeah, all those clubs, the Galaxy, the Empire, Cell Block, you know, those clubs back in Philly and stuff, and you know, what stood them apart from all the other bands, whether they were glam rock or just, you know, straight metal, or, you know, all the stuff that you had back in the 80s, is because Tommy wrote good songs, and they were really powerful and strong. They stuck out. And when you seen other bands that were trying to kind of mimic that kind of group, because after a while everybody started kind of regurgitating that glam thing, and they weren't trying to redevelop themselves. And that was kind of something that was kind of a forethought with us when we came out of the studio working, you know, with John and I are working in the studio putting those other albums out, that, you know, we had some deep talks about it, like, you know, well, how are we going to make this different? You know what I mean? How are we going to, and the key was that, one is the chemistry within the group, that it has to be really tight. And the other part of it is that we have to depend on each other to make sure we all are playing what we're supposed to be playing. And, you know, everybody in the band is each other's wingman. So, you know, that doesn't matter if we're playing on stage or if we're in a bar fight, you know, so it's gotta be that way. So that's kind of like our approach was always to try to make the songs come first, before anything else.
Absolutely, man, for sure. Bobby, let's kick it over to you, brother.
So, Jim, the big thing is, I noticed when you did the show down in Maryland, are you more of a, I'm going to go gearhead now. Are you a Strat guy? Or are you a Paul?
I'm more of a Paul guy. I've always owned Les Pauls. I love Les Pauls. And the one I'm playing currently right now is a custom made Les Paul. The It's one that I've been playing for the last, I'd say, about 4 years now, and it just growls. I just love that fucking guitar. And I've got others, and but that I tend to love my Les Pauls more than I do my Strats, Strat bodies or anything like that. So, but yeah.
Amp wise, straight Marshall, or how do you feel about the whole modeling thing, or fractals, Kemper? Everybody's using it now. One, because just backlines suck anywhere you go.
Well, I mean, fractals and Kempers, they're awesome. In the right hands, they could be deadly. There's some great players that are using them, and it's great to be able to walk into a gig. Here's your little, bag of tricks and a guitar, plug in and rock and roll, and that's great. I don't go that approach. I've had some opportunities to do that, but I just don't do it. I think there's nothing like the warmth I get from a tube amp. Right now I'm still using, as a matter of fact, a Laney AOR 100 head that I bought off of Zach Wild back in the 80s. And so it's been totally retubed. I put a choke in it. It's got, knock the rust off it, and I bring that. That's probably one of my main heads I use. So
very cool.
Right on, man. Absolutely. Angel, let's bring you back in, man. Question from yourself, and how are the Metal Summoners doing?
Metal Summoners, they're happy, excited. I appreciate more fan question. Come on, guys. Pretty quiet out there. I almost feel lonely. Like one of those sad love ballads. Okay, here's my question for you. When it comes to doing the set list, how does the band collectively decide on what songs to play when you're playing live?
That's a real good question. I have no say in that. I let John sing the songs, and he picks out the set list. We all read the crowd, but we pretty much look at the set list and say, John's got to sing these things. So it's his voice that has to carry. So we let him pick it out there, for each night that we play. And we put that burden on his shoulders because I'm glad, because I don't want that burden. I got enough riding. But it's good to see that he takes the reins on that. He knows how to read the crowd very well. And probably the best person I've ever seen read a crowd is Dream. He's got so much experience, and he just looks out there and he goes, no, we got to hit him right between the eyes, and and don't say another word. Just go out there and just play the music, or give it time, let the room breathe, or whatever. He's very good at reading the room, and but we let John pick the songs to sing for the night.
Got a question from Candy. Again, I need help with my voice. I'm still not 100%. Jay, if you can. Sorry. What's the first concert you ever attended?
Date myself with this, dude. This is okay. First concert I ever attended was at the Philadelphia Spectrum. I went and seen Foghat, and the opener for Foghat was Boston, and the warm-up act for Boston was James Gang with Joe Walsh on guitar. Yeah, I'm old.
Well, we're about the same age, so
I missed that one.
I was like 2 years old.
My older brother was too much of a pussy to take me to rock shows. So.
it was a really good show. I remember it actually. I got to see Bradley Delp, you know, and Tom Schultz do his stuff, and then Foghat, when they came on, they had Lonesome Dave on guitar playing slide, and that just floored me. I wound up in the early 80s working at a place called the Satellite Lounge in Cookstown, New Jersey. And
been there.
Yeah, at 10 o'clock in the morning, right? Closing the place. No, but I wound up working at the club, getting to know the owner really well, plus playing the place. And Foghat rolled in and did a show there, and I wound up working lights for him. So it was kind of felt like it went full circle.
Awesome. And like I said, I grew up in Camden across the bridge, so I remember a lot of the stuff in Philadelphia. I think the Galaxy is now an aquarium, like a little small aquarium. What used to be the Galaxy. That's what it is now. Yeah,
the Galaxy now is it's a pet store, but I heard it just went up for sale. And I know everybody wants to buy it, you know, and bring it back to what it was. The Galaxy was a really strange room. I don't know what you remember of it, but I played there several times, and it was just this, you know, seedy, dark, great rock and roll room. There was a vibe to it, you know. Great. Loved it there. That and the Cell Block and the Empire and all those other clubs back in the day, they were incredible. The Galaxy had its own mystique, you know. It was kind of like the whiskey of the East Coast, you know. So a lot of great bands came from there. Great bands.
All right, Jim, I got to throw this one out. So you mentioned the Empire, and I'm going to bring up a name and just see if I can get a reaction off your face. Lori Gallagher.
Lori Gallagher. Oh, yeah. I remember her. I'll throw one at you. Hoppy Riddle.
Or Dolphins. You know, what about over there? You know, Freddie Baker's places.
Yeah. You know, Freddie Baker, Apollo Attractions, right?
Yeah.
They were. Freddie had. Man, he had his finger on the pulse of the area, and he had a lock on a lot of really good A rooms back in the day. We were never part of Apollo Attractions. You know, we had different entertainment companies working with us in my band, but we still were able to team up with a lot of the different bands that were under Apollo Attractions for different stuff. Playing with Heaven's Edge back in the day at City Gardens and stuff like that. I'm hurting myself by trying to think about all this shit, but but yeah, that's what it was like back then. You know, those names are synonymous with that area.
And speaking of that, today it's the 2-year anniversary of the passing of, you mentioned Heaven's Edge, of Gigi. Mark just posted it today, Mark Evans. So, which has been, you know, pretty tough, surreal thing to, you know that, you know, we lost one of the best bass players in this area.
Mark's joked about him, so you know, and talking to him and talking to Reggie. You know, Reggie's a good friend of mine, and so is Mark, and those guys, they, you know, it's got to be a tough deal. It's got to be a horrendous deal losing somebody that's that close to you. You know, as a bandmate, as a musician, I mean, you know, none of us are getting any younger, and you're seeing quite more of it nowadays. And Gigi was an icon. I mean, you know, Mark kidded around with me about, you know, he was like talking about like how Gigi was like, and no, I'm not sure if it was Mark or Reggie that was saying like, he's like a cockroach. He's been through so much. You know, I don't know if you remember when he got shot. But yeah, he got shot point blank with a shotgun in the midsection, leaving I think the Empire. And he survived that. He kicked cancer's ass once before this, and it's a terrible loss to our area, but his spirit lives on and his music lives on. And that's kind of like why we do the things we do. It's our music is our music is our children. It's our legacy. And so, when they're gone, you could look at the music and we still, no matter what, the musicians still live on that way.
Yeah. It's great. I love that you're bringing up the whole Philly scene. And, like you said, a lot of us here are close with, Mark, Reggie, and everybody. I talk pretty often to Mike LeCompte as well. Mike does a lot of gigs, his whole days in Tangier. He's playing down in Wildwood and that. But, yeah, and the thing is we got to go out and support. Like you guys are going out. This is what keeps the ball rolling. I mean,
some of the things, this is the problem we're having right now, because I'm not going to get on a soapbox and bitch too much about this, but it's like, when I've talked to a lot of people that say, okay, COVID is now kind of winding down. I don't know about this new variant or whatever, but, people have promised that, they're like, oh man, when this thing lifts, we're going to be at every show. I miss concerts. I miss festivals. And you hear a lot of that, and it's like, but, sometimes it's kind of slow to the draw. It seems like right now, where people are kind of hesitant to go out and support, because there's this broad valley of difference when you talk about support for rock and roll. It's, part of it is you've got this hardcore people like you guys are supportive of this music. You're supporting it. You're taking your time out to get the word out about these bands that are coming in the area, and people that are your friends. They're just not bands that you don't know. Yeah. You intimately know these guys. They're people that you trust, and you're trying to do good for them because they're doing good for you. And that's support. Okay. And then you have this valley of non-support, where the non-support, it's not that they're there for the music. They're basically there to drink and party and have a good time. And it just so happens that there happens to be a rock and roll band on, and they want to go where the people are, and they gravitate towards that familiarity. But, the real support comes from, sorry, I'm outside out here in upstate New York, and we got big bugs around here. But it's that support system that you guys provide, you hit such a broad base of people, a massive base of people, which is just amazing. It's great. And for people that can't get out, especially right now, people are kind of hesitant to come out right now, even though sanctions and things have lifted and you don't have to wear a mask, or in Jay's case, well, I don't think Jay wears underwear anyways, but even there, that's almost as scary as COVID. But I'm just thinking,
I'm the best piece of ass in 4 states, Jim.
Is that about that in a book? It was a, but the support. Thank you for your support, and thank you for the people that are coming to the shows right now, because we really do need you. This whole COVID shit has really taken a hurting on a lot of people that are working. I mean, you guys know, whether it's a pro band or a basement band or just a bar and grill band, how much they've been suffering through this, because they're not making the fucking money. They're not able to get to, do what they're employed to do. And so thank you for doing what you do. I appreciate it. And I know Whiskey Grin appreciates it.
Yeah. Oh, we love that. All right, Jay, back to you. I'll get into my gig in a few, but go ahead, Jay.
No worries.
With your no underwear.
Yeah, seriously. Thanks a lot, JD. I appreciate you putting that out there like that. No, it's true, and it's funny too, because I can only imagine some of the fans that are watching right now who have listened to me on my soapboxes and like my diatribes about challenging fans and challenging people to come out and support for the real reasons that you want to come out and support and stuff like that. So I can only imagine a few chuckles that people are having right now because they're like, I don't get Jay started on that, which is actually very, very true. But the one thing that's also kind of cool, though, about when you were talking about places like the Galaxy and stuff like that is it kind of reminded me about some of these other venues that are kind of, to a certain degree, getting a second shot and stuff. Like there's a place down here in Towson, Maryland, that just got brought back. That was called The Wrecker. They went under for years and just got revamped and reopened. But also, Jim, Bobby, you guys will know this. Somebody just bought out to reopen the legendary Dobbs in Philly.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting to see, the potential of being able to go, because I never got to go to Dobbs. So it's I'm looking forward to, getting to go inside those four walls, and hopefully they definitely do it well and stuff like that. But also like what you were saying, Jim, about like supporting the bands. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we really like to do. We love you guys. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. I mean, my relationship with BLE and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is, we really love what you guys do, and our format and our platform has definitely allowed for that because, we talked about this recently, like all of us as hosts of the show are, very trusting of who we want to bring on. We want to go after, certain bands that have done this or certain styles that have maybe done that. But we had Angel, who brought on this guy, Bob D, who I wasn't familiar with. And it was a fantastic interview. And the guys trusted me to bring on my friends like Raven, who's in like a dark metal, crazy painted, crazy heavy metal band out of Detroit. Or my buddy Ty, who is in Power Man 5000, but he's also got like kind of an electronic kind of goth pop rock metal thing going right now that's very cool. So that was always a big thing about us, is like trusting that, we could like bring in people to want to talk to and stuff like that. And then also having, bosom buddies like Doug Pinnick, who that Bobby knows, having fantastic episodes like that. So, we've said it before, Jim, we work for you guys.
And it's humbling to have you guys do what you do, man. And that's awesome. I mean, you spoke, about BLE, and, those of us who know Brad, I just want, Brad, if you're watching this, just I want you to know that, you're in my prayers, and, we've been praying for you and your family. Love you, Angie. Love your kids. I hope that everything's going to be cool with you soon, and can't wait to work with you again. Can't wait for Masquerade. That's going to be awesome. That's going to be in Havre de Grace, Maryland, right, guys?
Yeah.
Great.
That venue.
If it's going to be where it's going to be, well, I'm not going to divulge that, of course, but if it's going to be where I think it's going to be, great venue.
No, absolutely. Like, for sure. And so let's talk a little bit about that. Fans, continue to get your comments in, because I'm going to kick it to Angel next. But on that same topic, let's kind of roll with that for a second, Jim. So we've got Masquerade. That's Halloween weekend in Havre de Grace, Maryland, the 28th, the 29th, and 30th. It's a 3-day festival that BLE is putting on. But what is currently going on for the second half of 2021 with Whiskey Grin? What are some of the things that you can tell us about, and some shows that you have coming up, if there's ones you can talk about?
I just found out I can start talking about this. On September 11th, we'll be at the Spyglass Winery.
Very cool.
And we'll be playing with a small band. You probably never heard of them. They're called Cheap Trick. Never heard of those guys, right? They're just a small time band. They just left the garage, and now they're playing at the Spyglass Winery.
That's such a great venue.
It's an amazing venue. Looking forward to that. It's gonna be one hell of a show. Actually, they got skydivers, food trucks, fireworks, Cheap Trick's going to be playing. I mean, it's going to be one hell of a day. That's for sure. So, and of course we're playing there. So that's
how are you going to compete with Rick and his guitars?
I think I'm just going to bring one.
One to his 80 that he brings
exactly.
out. He changes like faster than I change underwear, or Jay doesn't change underwear.
He doesn't own any.
They bunch up under the paint.
No, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think. John and I, we just went to a couple years ago. We went and seen Cheap Trick at the Count Basie Theater, and Rick is just he's amazing. All the guitars he brings out. I'd hate to be his guitar tech. In fact, I know his old guitar tech. He's a friend of mine, Sven Gali. He worked with them and Heaven's Edge with Reggie, and in fact, he's probably Reggie's best friend. And so I don't think it's going to be any kind of competition, because if it was, I would definitely lose. I don't own as many as he does.
You can borrow some of mine.
Okay, bring them over. I'll play them.
Oh.
So, but that's one I could talk about now. That's been in the works now for probably 3 or 4 months at least. And I was at the Spyglass Winery just recently for Steve Pressup had a show up there where he had Lita Ford and
I was there. And
you were there?
Angel went up as well.
Okay. Great show, great venue. Did you try any of their wine?
Yeah, the wine, and I love the brewery. What is it? Three Beards Brewery up on the hill that it just opened up. And a buddy of mine, his band just played, which is Eagle Mania. They're out of New Jersey, big Eagles tribute band. And I mean, the guy who started the winery started Music Fest in Bethlehem.
Yeah, it's Tom. Yeah,
Tom,
he's
what a great guy.
Super dude, man. Super dude. Yep. So I'm really looking forward to playing there. It's a big facility. Their wine is awesome. I know he's got a distillery he's building now. And they're going to be making whiskeys and bourbons in there. And that's going to be very interesting for Whiskey Grin. So I can't talk too much about that, but it's going to be very interesting. And of course, getting back to Masquerade, though, that is quite an honor to be even a part of that. Some of the names that are on that bill is just that's going to be the show to be at by far. As far as the multi bands that are coming together this year, that's going to blow everything else out of the water. You might remember Bobby and who was it? When Jack Russell got up there at Spyglass, and man, he sounded so good. The band was just so tight and good, man. Can't wait to see them again at Masquerade.
Yeah, which is great because we were the three of us were at M3, and we got to see the other incarnation of Great White.
Right.
Which is, let me throw this one out, and then Jay, I'll throw it back to you. I asked this question to a couple other. When you get numerous incarnations of a band, I don't know. I don't know which one do you follow. Do you follow the one with the singer, or do you follow the one with the more members?
Well, when you're that drunk, you follow the one in the middle. Me personally, I mean, I think we all gravitate towards the ones that have the original members in it, the most original members in it. But then again, I've seen some incarnations of bands that are like, I went and seen Foreigner, and they had no original members in there. They sounded amazing.
Yeah, Mick will play when he feels like it,
Go ahead,
amazing, but
yeah.
I gravitate towards the ones that have the most members, the original members in them.
But
or the voice of the band, the real voice of the band.
Yeah, like you said, it's got to be the voice. One thing you got to say, thank God Arnel Pineda really carries for Journey. There are certain people who do it, but when you bring a singer in and you're going, wait a second, you sound nothing like who it was. And I'll bring this up, for instance, and he was a beautiful singer who passed away, Brian Howe, who was singing for Bad Company for a while when Paul Rogers stepped down. Brian sounded nothing like Paul. Totally changed the band. Same thing with Sammy, what he did with Van Halen. It was a whole different genre. And we just had the opportunity of talking about Quiet Riot. Rudy's coming back into the band, but really there's no original members of Quiet Riot left.
Well, I think, that's, and I don't want to sound like I'm kind of jaded towards this shit, but sometimes the brand is bigger than the band, and it has to have that longevity, you know what I mean, to keep selling or to keep people employed, and the brand Quiet Riot, so Rudy's coming back, will that draw more people to come see Quiet Riot? Well, yeah, of course it is. Is it going to sell more merchandise? Is it going to be able to, and you're going to see a piece of that band that made all that great music, and you're going to be able to experience some of that? Well, yeah, even if there's just one original member in that band, shit, yeah, you're going to be able to, catch a little bit of that vibe. And yeah, you might walk away from the show going, man, I wonder if you've never seen them in their full membership, you'll probably walk away going, I wonder what it was like back then when they had all the original guys in there, but sometimes the voice is not the same in the group. It does change. Like, Paul Rogers, he didn't sound like Freddie Mercury. Not saying he did a bad job at all, but he stepped up for Queen. And sometimes that's, what you do as a musician. Sometimes, you have friends in the business that just can't be 100%, or that the band is not 100% because they might have gotten rid of a member or whatever. And I did that for the band Far Cry a while back ago. They need another guitar player in the band. Pete was still in the band. Pete Fry was in the band, and Far Cry was playing the Melodic Music Festival in Chicago. And I got a phone call, and they gave me like a week and a half to learn 10 songs and flew me up there, and I had to do that. But you step up for your friends, you step up for the people that are there. So you don't want to see them do a half-ass show. You want them to be able to project the way their brand should be projected.
Well, we have a good friend who's been on and who's done that a lot for Major Act, and that would be Steve Brown, stepping in for Viv and for Phil when both of them had difficulties. And talk about a guy who has to be on his A game at a moment's notice. I tip my hat to Steve Brown. I mean, what a hell of a fucking player, too.
A lot of guys out there that, that may not know the inner workings of some of that stuff, about, I need a guitar player. I'm calling Steve Brown, or I'm calling Phil X, because, I know he's got the chops and he's going to be able to handle this, and he could learn every bit of this music in like 4 seconds and be up there and do it, sight readers and stuff like that. But a lot of it is that, a lot of people don't know the unsung heroes that are doing a lot of this kind of stuff, and they're keeping the band and the name and the brand alive. Kudos to them, because that's a hard fucking job.
Well, and it is because, and it's having a great attitude. Look, you don't get a gig just because of your talent, too. You have to be, you know, the three of us were at M3 and we talked to a lot of bands, and the camaraderie has to be there.
Look, you don't get because of your you have to be.
It doesn't work.
It has to be there.
We've seen that shit when it doesn't work on stage.
That shit when
and
it doesn't.
Yeah. One big, for instance, of something that does work, Ari with Steven Adler, his band, Steven's band, Well-Oiled Machine. Had the opportunity of seeing GNR, won't put him down. Sounded great, Duff, but I thought Adler's band was just as good.
They're definitely fantastic. Bobby, let me jump in real quick because I know that because Jim being kind of up in like the mountains and stuff in New York, he said he might have some temporary connection issues. So while we're getting him brought back in and stuff like that. But we've got him back. Cool. But no, you're definitely right with what you were saying about like different kinds of like, you know, just different kinds of like, you know, bands, star power, legacy, and things like that. And you know, Jim, just now that you're back with us, like we were talking about, because like, for example, with a band like Quiet Riot, I personally actually never gotten to see Rudy live. So if Quiet Riot comes to town, I mean, I'm definitely going to go just for that. But I had also told people that, you know, I'm a Quiet Riot fan in general. With the loss of Frankie, which is, you know, devastated me just as much as everybody else, you know, as far as going to see the band to wanting to keep them alive, me personally, they brought in my kind of guy because I'm a huge Type O Negative fan. So the fact that they brought in Johnny Kelly to take over drums, I'm sitting back there, and also being, you know, a Danzig guy and Misfits and stuff like that. He's the drummer for Danzig. So I'm like, they're bringing in a guy who I already love from all these projects, so I think that's fantastic. And also, like you were saying before, you know, Bobby, when you were talking about the segue about, you know, singers versus original members and stuff like that, you know, we can even take a band like LA Guns. Like, I've seen them multiple times as Riley's LA Guns. I think what they do is solid. I've known Kurt for a while now. I think he's a fantastic frontman. And Stephen Riley has personally always treated me very well. However, you're going to pit them up against LA Guns, which has the name of the band on guitar, the voice that everybody knows as the voice of LA Guns, and then just using myself as an example, you've got two of my good friends in the band in Ace and Johnny. I was like, I'm going to go and support the voice, the name, and my friends. So, you know, I'll go and see, you know, Riley's LA Guns if they come to town. I'm happy to do so because I like to support everybody. But if there ever is a time, you know, in like the area where like one band is playing really close to the other, I'm going to be at Phil and Tracy. So I definitely understand with all of that. But again, it's also it's a dealer's choice because like you've got those relationships and stuff like that. We might have people who have like a really good relationship with like Kelly Nichols or, you know, Scotty Griffin or Stephen Riley, where they're like, I want to go support those friends. And that's where I would rather be. And there's definitely absolutely nothing wrong with that. Angel, you and the Metal Summoners have been really patient, buddy. So let's kick it back up to you.
No, I just want to say thank you to, I mean, we got a couple new fans watching. Lizzie, thank you for watching. We know you're here for Jim. Just want to say thank you. And Noel, Kami, somebody else. Leanne, just want to say thank you for watching and thank you for supporting us. Now I got a question from Kim Sullivan. She wants to know anything you would do differently if you were just starting out in music.
Can you repeat the question? I had a giant truck just go by me.
No problem. Anything you would do differently if you were just starting out in music?
If I was anything I would do differently.
Yep. If you were starting out.
I think, you know, I can only speak for for what I'm doing right now is Whiskey Grin, because my past is my past there. But when it comes to Whiskey Grin, I think I would have went through a little bit better vetting process in choosing the drummers that we've had. Dream has been with the band now for, I guess, 5 years. And before that, we had other drummers, several other drummers. I think we went through 3 or 4 different drummers, and it all seemed that it was all good during the vetting process and things. They can hit their marks. They are doing really well. But a lot of times, as some of you guys know, because you've played in bands and you're around bands enough, if the chemistry isn't there and they also have other underlying issues or whatever, that can come up and you have to be solid. So I think it probably took away a couple of years off but we got them now and we're happy with that. So that'd probably be the.
No worries. Sorry again, fans. Like I said, we knew going in that with the mountains in New York that Jim might kind of be skipping in and out a little bit. So let me just jump in real quick. Bobby, let me kick it back over to you. What do you think when it comes to these younger bands taking on legacies like what Ari's doing in Adler? What do you think about the way that they've been doing it as far as bringing on like a new fire to it or bringing on something to notice?
Well, the great thing about it is what I found out is Axel can't do what Ari's doing. And I think it would piss Axel off on that end, because when I looked at Ari, everybody goes, oh, he's doing an imitation. I'm going. But when I watched Axel, I was like, his voice sounded great. And look, we all get older. I don't look like the 18-year-old Bobby, but there's a thing that you have to do. I think, look, we've seen a lot of artists. Kip looks amazing. There's a lot of artists who really take care of themselves. And there's ones who go, you look at it and you go, dude, you've been through the ringer. But it's, like that right there. And I just keep going, we're all going to get older. And just like Jim says, where the shit's, I look at Reggie now and I look at Mark. Mark doesn't age. I look at Reggie and I'm going, God, I remember being at the Empire and I'm like going, damn, wow, we got older. Whatever happened to Mark? What the hell? Where did he get that fountain of youth?
No, for sure, man. Definitely.
And the other guy, too, is the gentleman who cuts my hair, Mr. Buddy Blanche. And Buddy, with Romeo Delight, you look at Buddy and I'm going, what the hell are you taking? Give me some of that, put it like my arm.
Bobby, you know that Tony keeps you young.
Oh, some people do Botox. I guess mine's Botox.
Oh my God, that's too wild. Well, Jim, let me kick it back to you, brother, and then Angel, take it away after this, so we can keep it with the fans. So we lost you a little bit in just like what you were talking about, like what you would change versus what you wouldn't change. You had just talked about how Dream had been in the band for about 5 years at the time.
Yeah, I don't know how much you heard of that, but Dream is definitely, I wish I would have had him from the start of the conception of Whiskey Grin. He's such a solid player. He's a legend, at least in the tri-state area. I found out that Jason Bonham is actually a fan of his. So
can
you he's just
interject here. People who don't know.
Hold on a second, Bobby. Let me jump right in again real quick, because we've got to remember that we're having a little bit of these mic issues. Start that question over again, because it was coming through kind of fuzzy.
I was going to say, could you elaborate on Dream and his real name and what his background is? Because he is a phenomenal drummer. Jim? Hello? Hello?
Oh.
Oh. Did we lock up?
Oh, we lost him again.
We'll get him back.
We'll get him back. No worries, and we'll
Here it
definitely
comes.
we'll definitely.
He's up there in Friday the 13th land.
He is. No, he definitely is for sure. Angel, let's bring you in a little bit, man. What's your take a little bit on like when these bands with a legacy have somebody kind of in, whether it's a singer or maybe it's like a newer blood kind of guy, and what they may or may not inject into that? What do you think?
I'm the guy that I'm just happy that as long as they're happy doing it and they're happy being together. One example is Skid Row. I get it. They don't want to go back with Sebastian Bach. But if I want to see Skid Row with Sebastian Bach, I can go back, listen to the old records. I don't want to see a version of Skid Row being miserable on stage with the original singer. And they're not really up there having fun and enjoying themselves. We go to a rock show to have a beer, have a good time, get laid, let's face it. And what else? Oh, yeah, the music. That's what we go there for. So we go there to escape reality for a few hours to enjoy the music. So to me, like I said, whether it's LA Guns, I'm happy seeing whatever versions as long as they're happy together on stage doing it. But that's just my take on it. I mean, during the 90s, we've seen a bunch of,
happy together.
I don't know what was in the water in the 90s, but like Anthrax, Motley Crue, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden all had different singers.
Yeah.
So that kind of prepared me for 2021.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. You know, and as much as I've always loved Motley Crue, I've been always very straight up about how much I love it and how much I loved the '94 album that they did with John Corabi, because I was a fan of his when he was already playing, when he was playing in the Scream. So I love that. You know, I, like many other people, are probably more like, it probably wasn't in their best interest to call the band Motley Crue, but at the same time, you can't fault them for doing it either, because they weren't the first band to bring in somebody new but keep the same name. It was just stylistically such a different sound that I think that was one of the big reasons why, you know, it caught so many people off guard. So, you know, if I had it my way, you know, obviously they're never going to put Motley Crue with a new singer and call it the name of the singer, but you kind of get what my point is here. Like, you know, they could have called it, you know, Corabi, or they could have, even if they called it something like The Crew or something like that, but they definitely could have brought it, you know, they probably could have figured out a way to do it. But at the same time, I totally get it. I totally understand. But Jim, we'll scoot it back over to you, brother. Yeah, talk about what brought Dream back into the fold.
To you, brother. Dream back into the
I think you said something about Dream. You're kind of breaking up here. I got a real shitty signal up here. I'm over here by Lake Champlain, and I'm in the valley, the Champlain Valley. So signal is kind of really sketchy. I apologize for that. You know, I think we were talking about Dream.
You're totally fine.
When Dream, you know, he actually, I could tell you this much, that I remember back in the Galaxy days watching Dream and going, my God, what a fantastic drummer this guy is. I mean, he was a show drummer, so he did all the flipping of the sticks and all that stuff. And, you know, he was really, really good at it. He still is, you know. But when he joined us, I remember he approached us. He approached to join us. And, you know, we were kind of hesitant because he was playing with 12 other groups at the time. And we said, you know, in order to join us, we need a lot more commitment from you. And so we kind of like said no, but there was no disrespect to him because I love him so much. But but we kind of said no to him. And even knowing his history and where he's been and what he's done. But then he was like, no, I'm going to earn my way into this group. And he insisted on auditioning. And when I seen him play with John for the first time, I mean, they fucking locked. It was incredible watching them two. They were like they knew each other their whole lives, and they played like that. And John just looked at me after 5 minutes of play, not even 5 minutes of playing with him. He just looked at me and gave me the look, and I knew that Dream was going to be our new drummer.
Nice, man. That's super duper cool.
Nice,
and
man.
he's got that. He's really got that thing about him for sure. And that was one of the first things that our beloved family of Lee told me about when they were introducing me more to you guys. Was they were like, dude, they've got this crusher on the kit of a guy that you really don't think would wail as hard as he wails. And sure enough, man, absolutely. Like, it was fantastic because Dream is definitely really amazing. And then from talking to you in just separate conversations, obviously not professional conversations, where we talked a little bit just about the band's history, and where you would tell me about like his pedigree and just everything that he was doing, coming up in the scene as well, was absolutely nothing short of fantastic. So that's really super cool to see that you've got such a tight rhythm section between Dreen and John, for sure. Angel, let me keep it with you, man, because you were still doing the segment when we started off talking a little bit about the background of the band. So Angel, keep rolling with it, buddy, if we got more fan questions.
Question is, what guitarist, album, or artist influenced you to pick up a guitar and want to do what you do now?
I think my sister turned me on to Leslie West in Mountain, and that really changed. It did something. It started a fire within me, and of course, I went on from that to I would steal her albums, and when she wasn't around, and play a lot of different things, like listening to Peter Frampton. The Come Alive album, Comes Alive album, just sent me over the top. I had a music teacher back in the day. I think I was like in third grade, and she came up to me and handed me a record, and it was Space Truckin' by Deep Purple. And she said, "You're going to like this." And she just gave that to me, and it had that kind of an influence that, and I kind of knew at that time that I just got to start playing guitar. I have to pick up this instrument, and so that's how that all started. So that was, my sister is probably the main influence of why I'm doing what I'm doing now, as my vocation and my passion.
Very cool, man. Very cool, for sure. Fans, I do want to let you guys know we do have another segment with you guys coming up, but it is last call for alcohol, guys. So definitely get more comments to Jim, questions, anything that you want asked in. Make sure that you definitely get those in for when we kick it back over to Angel for that final segment. So it is last call for alcohol, guys, when it comes to questions for Jim. Bobby, let's kick it back up to you, man. What do you got in mind? How do you want to stir the pot?
So I want to get to Jim. So July 24th, you were recording. Where were you recording at and what do you have in the works right now?
Right now, John and I have been recording some stuff, home studio kind of stuff right now for the upcoming album. We haven't set a date yet of when we're going to approach the studio. And to work with that, and which studios we're going to be using. We've had some really tempting offers to work in a couple different studios. So, but right now we're just, we have all the material. We're just putting it all together as a band, as a unit, and then we're just going to go right in. So there's no date right now, but we are definitely writing right now, and we're at the arrangement part. A song submission has already been done, so now we're doing arrangement now.
What's your process on go in, do your parts, or do you just go in as a band?
In the very beginning, we go in as a band, and to support each other, of course. And Dream, like I said, he's such a beast in the studio. I mean, he's like one take, everything is done, and he's got so much studio experience. He's like, some drummers, they can't play to a click track, and it's like he sleeps with one or something. I don't know what he does, but he's just so good with it. And so he nails everything pretty quickly. And then next, of course, the way we did the first Whiskey Grin album is John came in and knocked out his parts, and then I come in and do all the guitars, and then we do the vocals last. But we lay down a scratch track of vocals and stuff, so it's everything we do is pretty easy to follow for us.
Yeah.
And that's the process. But we plan on getting back real soon.
Very cool. Any studios that you have in the works?
Greenfield Studios, where we recorded the first one. Ron Tagg, who played with who you mentioned before, Tangier, his studio. And also we've been talking to John Albino over at Bulletproof Studios in Hazlitt, New Jersey, not too far from the Stone Pony. Working up there. We just did a show up there, a live stream show for Groove on the Move up there. That was with a lot of really, really good original acts from the tri-state area. And we played a show up there, and they recorded it and sent it out as a live feed and all over the world. And where they shot it as a video as well. So that studio is amazing. It's like walking into a museum, and the staff there is just really, really good at what they do. But and I'm not taking anything away from like,
you pesky New York.
Darn you.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. As it's getting towards that fall season, for sure. So, fans, we're going to bring Jim back in. We'll finish up this segment with him, get a couple of more fan questions in, and then
Here we go.
Oh,
there's Jim.
Sorry, Jim. We got you, brother. So
he's at Camp Crystal Lake.
We thought maybe Jason Voorhees got you.
I here for that.
But you were talking about the recording process in the studio.
Yeah. I mean, you know what it's like. A studio could be, it has its own issues. Sometimes I love the recording studio and sometimes I hate it. But I'm looking forward. I'm really, the songs that we have growing right now and we're developing right now, I'm really excited about going back in because we got some really good shit right now. And I can't wait to sink my teeth into it and get back in there and do this next album. So
very cool.
Absolutely.
And I hope
What was that?
I said, I hope it keep, am I muted? I said, I hope it keep that. I said, I hope it keep that fire in my belly for it because, it can be a process. The studio, the studio doesn't make you feel like you're a player. It's a weird kind of deal. It's this is just my own experiences. I think the studio, you're playing parts over and over again, and you're making sure things are right on cue, or you're getting the right tone and sound, and creating a picture where it's like so that in itself can lend itself to mean liking it because you don't feel like you're a player. You feel like you're just you're playing parts, you're playing bits and pieces. You're not playing songs in their entirety, and you're trying to make a complete meal, whereas when you're playing live, you're just out there and you're letting the hair fly and just banging away and you're getting all your emotions out completely. So if I had my drummers, I'd just play live and that's it. But you gotta record what you play so people know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, I know, 100%.
So kind of like an interesting
thing
for you, Jim.
for you, Jim.
With you know, because it's something that Bobby can relate to as well. Being, you know, all the bands that he's done and the fact that he's a producer and works with all of these bands still currently. With somebody like yourself who's got all these years of experience with different bands, different number of people in the bands and different like styles of music, what can you say looking back on kind of the progression of recording music? In your opinion, has it changed much over the years, or is the basic skeleton and design of recording a record always pretty much stayed solid from like then until now?
Jim?
No, he's muted at the moment. Hey, JD, can you unmute him, bud?
No, he's froze.
Oh, did he?
Oh, there he's back. Oh, he's gone. He's back.
We lost him.
There's Angel.
For a second. All right, no worries.
Hey, Angel, so I got to ask, are there any hookers in your hotel?
Oh, jeez, Bobby.
No, I'm self-quarantined.
He's
I don't think
pretty-
I have a Pornhub right now.
We got Jim back. no worries. No
I
worries.
heard that.
So, did you get that? Did you get that question in full?
Did you get that?
I heard Pornhub, and that was it. So it must have been something good.
That's just what Bobby and Angel do.
That's just what Bobby and Angel do.
I'm in
Did
self-quarantine.
you get that last question in full, bud?
Did you get that last question in full, bud?
No.
No worries. It's all good.
No worries.
So
It's
basically,
all good.
with referencing also Bobby, because he's done so much music himself. He's produced for countless bands himself. My question to you was simple enough. In your experience, you know, in all the time that you've been doing music, doing bands from 5 pieces to 3 pieces, from back then until now, how do you look back on the recording like process? Would you say that the skeleton of it has basically stayed the same from then until now, or do you think it's had to morph over time?
I can honestly say that, you know, recording back in the day, you know, 2-inch metal tape or something, you know, back then when you went in as a band, you went in and the whole band as a unit had to be really, really tight. I honestly believe that the musicians back, say, you know, 15 to 20 years ago or even further, you know, those musicians are probably, in a lot of ways, they were better because you really had to get your shit together before you went into the studio. Now, if you fuck up, you know, they can cut and paste and put you wherever you want. Recording an album back in the day in the 80s, you know, oh, well, if you had one gaff, that was all you were allowed to have during a song. You better have all your parts right, play it right first, second time. You keep going and you're just wasting so much time and money and effort. So you really made, back then it was really a lot tougher, but it made you a better musician. Nowadays with like, you know, Pro Tools and stuff like that. I'm not saying it's cheap and easy to do it now, or it cheats. It's you know, Pro Tools and all the other devices, you know, it's kind of like their own. It's a separate monster. It's still a daunting task to make sure that everything is done well. And you know, Bobby, you know, if doing producing, you know, that you can capture somebody playing the part perfect, but at the same time, you as a producer go, that's not the perfect I was looking for. And you could hear little things, you know, you probably pick up stuff that dogs can't hear. So, you know, you pick up things.
It's the way you fret something, or I'm like, dude, don't bend it there. Bend it here. You know, don't, you know, it's all that shit. It's telling them, take the shit off your pedal, you know, turn it down, you know. It's, you gotta just almost eat, breathe, live this and have it in your head. That's why I was saying the whole thing about modeling and amps. Trying to tell a kid who's using a modeling thing going, dude, you need to know what 6L6s sound like, or, EL34s, or, difference between a 57 and a ribbon mic, and it's getting in their head. I don't know. It's like, God, these fucking kids.
I mean, it's really fucked up when you go into a studio and one thing that I learned, like there's certain speakers I don't like. Like a lot of us grew up listening to, and having Celestrian speakers and, in our Marshall cabinets. But there's certain speakers that sound like ass and some of them that sound really good. I'm a big fan of Greenback 25s, but I really don't like the vintage 30s, and currently I kind of like the 70 80s right now. So it's, finding those good things that you do like. Sometimes the engineer or the producer, says, no, we just need to get the right signal out of you. And you're like, but I depend on this to make myself play better. You know what I mean? And we'll fight you for it. Like, because like I recorded the first album through a vintage cabinet with vintage 30s in it. And I hated it. It just was not my tone. And then later on, of course, my engineer was like, no, we're going to massage this sound to make it the way you want it to sound. And luckily enough, he had a good signal and a good enough tone that we can shape and morph it to get my sound. So it took a long time to get it like that, where before it was just like, if you went in there with the right microphone, several microphones spaced certain distance, from your cab and getting that warmth out of the room and out of the head that you're using.
Yeah.
That was the deal. You know what I mean? And it is still to that deal with me right now. I like the simpler way of doing those things. The modeling amps are just not my thing, but like I said, in the right hands, the guys who know how to play and know how to control their dragons can really bring a good dragon to the fight. But it's hard to find those guys. Some of them, but I like plugging in, and tone is in the hands, just play. And if you can't play, then just spend more time practicing before you go into the studio. Don't waste your time or the engineer or the producer's time, and do it like that. But that part of the business has not changed, because anybody who's ever done recording knows that, like, you get that sigh out of the engineer where he's like, shit, if I have to tell this fucking guy to play this one more damn time, and he's getting carpal tunnel from, punching and clicking, so it's, that part of the industry has not changed. So, but I try to work on my parts as hard as I can before I go in a studio, so I don't waste as much time.
Look, Jim, I just had my ass handed to me a couple weeks ago. I had a producer here, Mark Hudson. Mark wrote for Aerosmith and wrote for everybody, Hudson Brothers. So Mark was in here recording with a couple of people. I love Mark. I've done a lot with him. But you talk about a guy who can kick the shit out of it. It's just like, he's like, look, I know what I want. I'm thinking, oh my God, stop. You're driving me fucking nuts. But he gets a sound in his head. And I know, and he's like, you got to try to get that, like you're saying, the sound in your head. An engineer and a producer needs to try to figure out what's in your head. And that's the hard thing. And trying to communicate that sometimes.
No, 100%.
Go ahead.
No, it's you're right, Bobby, for sure. Like that, just getting into their heads, just
now what they're
thinking. And what's up, dude?
I gotta hear JD unmute him. Yeah, JD, what were you saying?
Mute him. Yeah, JD, what were you saying?
Me?
Yeah, Jim.
Me?
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, you.
I know what you mean about. I was just saying that you don't want to be in my head. So, but I know what you're saying because the first mixes of the debut album from Whiskey Grin, I was talking to Ron Tagg about it, and he came back with a mixed down version of it, and I was like, no, this is not what I wanted at all. It didn't sound, and I had to convey to him, what guitar players that, like I remember on one song, I was like, back in the day, we were working with, we were working at Trax East up in North Jersey and recording, and it was the same studio that Skid Row was using at the time, and we were using their drum triggers. And I just remembered that sound of the guitars, the way they sound, and I said, I want to be able to make my guitar sound this way. This is how I kind of gear a sound. You know what I mean? So I like their grind that they're getting. And if you ever heard my guitars by themselves, their amps, they're kind of along that lines a lot of time, at least the crunchy parts. I think they do anyways. I don't know if anybody else will find it that way, but I just told him, I said, listen, if you mix these several guitar players, I said, that's the sound I'm trying to emulate. And we did a lot of tricks in the studio and got the sound the way I wanted to sound. Plus we were playing live shows. So I said, you have to come out and you got to hear my amplifiers. And, he came out and he even mixed us down. He listened to us and he got what I wanted. So getting into somebody's head, you got to do the legwork, and that's hard for a producer or an engineer. Get inside, one of the musicians' head, unless they already are glued into knowing that's exactly how I want it to sound. So it's a tough deal.
Yeah, 100% for sure.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to kick it down to Angel right quick. He's got one more fan question for you, Jim, and then we're going to let you enjoy the rest of your evening and let you put your feet up for a little while. So we're going to kick it to Angel for that final fan question. Take it away, and then I'll wrap it up.
Okay, this is from Dave Rosenfeld. He wants to know, Jim, what's your favorite live setup? With the rig.
Hold on a second, fans. Looks like we might have lost Jim for a split second. So we'll bring Jim back on in just a second. He'll pop back on. We'll get that final question. But first and foremost, guys, thank you so much for tuning in this week to another episode of the Metal Summit. We really, really appreciate you guys. We've got our next guest announcements going to be on Friday. And, of course, next Wednesday on the 25th, we will be live again with our next episode. But make sure that you're following us on all of our socials. As you guys know, we're live on Facebook, we're live on Twitter, and we are live on YouTube. So definitely make sure that you're following us on all of those with the subscriptions and everything there. So every time that we're live and we're talking to really rad guests, that you guys are right back here for it. So I'm going to kick it right back to Jim so he can finish off that final fan question for you. Jim, what's your favorite setup? Like, how do you like your rig?
I usually dime out all the knobs. No, I'm just kidding. My favorite setup is using a half stack. I like using a Marshall JCM 800 B cabinet. I like it. I like it hitting the back of my legs. And I don't like in-ear monitors. I like wedges. I like to feel, what I'm playing. I'm kind of a feel player. It helps me get where I want to be as a player, playing live. I do go through a pedal board, but I don't have a lot of pedals on it. And I just plug in and go. That's my favorite way of playing, and just let the hands do the talking.
Awesome, man. And as a final thing, where can everyone find you?
We're on every bit of social media. Right now, I'm in Lake Champlain, New York, but don't come looking for me. No, but we're in every bit of social media out there. You can get us at whiskey.grin.net. That takes you to our Facebook page, Spotify, iTunes. We're everywhere. You just don't have to look too far. Just, whiskeyGrin.net. You can start there. And also we have a new format we're going to be bringing out, how to obtain us and our merchandise and everything else. That's going to be released soon. But that's basically it. If you go to whiskeyGrin.net, you'll find us there, and look us up on Facebook and, Instagram, Twitter, and all that other stuff. We pretty much have a lot of all that stuff covered.
Awesome, man. Fantastic. Well, Jim, we can't thank
you. Over at Masquerade.
No, definitely. Oh, yeah, we're there right now. So definitely thanks. Make sure that you get right on that and get out. Support Jim, support John and Dream Whiskey Grin as they open up for Cheap Trick and are coming to Maryland to Havre de Grace for Masquerade. Definitely come out, get out to support these guys. And again, we understand that there's different situations, different things where people maybe can and can't travel. We'll try to meet them somewhere in the middle. If you can't make it out to one of their gigs, well, I'm sure that Jim wouldn't hate to see people walking around in some Whiskey Grin t-shirts as well. So definitely, see whatever it is you can do to support the bands now that we're getting live music back. But Jim, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you taking your time this evening to rock out with us and hang out with us, man. It was really informative, really insightful. And first and foremost, we hope that you had a good time.
I had a blast, man. Thank you guys so much.
Great.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. And can't wait to see you guys again. And I think we're going to have a blast at, the Spyglass Winery with Cheap Trick. And hopefully you guys may be there.
I'll be there for that one.
Awesome. And of course, Masquerade. I'm really looking forward for that, because hopefully, we can all get together and be a part of the, as a collective for BLE family kind of deal. And once again, our prayers are out there for Brad and his family, and get well soon, brother. And stay healthy and strong. And, we're here for you.
Absolutely. And Brad's definitely been doing his thing. He's definitely been getting stronger and stuff like that. And he was definitely doing his thing in Nashville when we were all out there for Rockin' Pod. So he's definitely getting more fit. And we love you, brother. You know that we've always got you. But, again, Jim, Whiskey Grin, thank you so much for spending your evening with us, brother. We really appreciate you so much. And Metal Summit, thank you guys so much for everything that you're doing, tuning in every week, supporting us. It was so great getting to see so many of you guys at Nashville, and we can't wait to see you guys at Masquerade and all of the other shows that we attend, and anytime that you guys just run into us in general. So again, thank you guys so much. But on behalf of Jim and Whiskey Grin, Psycho Steve, Bobby Dreyer, Angel Alamo, I'm Jay. Again, thank you guys so much. Guest announcement on Friday. Brand new episode next Wednesday. Thank you guys as always. We will see you guys next week. And as always, you've been watching the Metal Summit.
Yeah.